So I wound up getting a rebuild kit from AutoZone, part number 96-550, and it was $23. I also got everything good and clean in the solvent tank. Doesn't quite look as clean as I guess it could, but that's more staining than anything. So now it's time to go back together. This kit comes with an exploded diagram of how the carburetor goes back together. And it also comes with some instructions on how to set the float and a few other settings. So I'm going to start with the easiest part and put the float back in the body. This is the main body here. Needle and seat go in here, and then the float sits right in here. You can see it comes with a whole new needle seat, the spring, all the little parts. Here's all the needle and seat parts here. Here's the seat, gets this gasket on it, and then it gets screwed in. Screw that in, I'm going to kind of put it upside down. Just kind of start it with my fingers, like that. And there it is, that's tight. Next thing that goes in is the needle. Put the needle in. After that it gets this spring. Then it gets this plunger, and the smaller side goes into the spring. After you put it in, you just want to press it and make sure it springs back up, and it does. Next thing you want to do is get the float and the float pin. You can see on this end it's kind of like flared so that it can't come out. You want to put the float in, and then you want to put that flared end on this side. You want to make sure that the flared end's on this side. The pin can't go that way, and when you put the body on, it can't come out this way. That's the proper way that goes in. Now next thing you want to do is do a couple measurement checks on this, and I'll show you what they look like. So to make that adjustment, I have this style float here, and it's float level setting, and it says with the gasket removed, invert the air horn assembly, measure Z, using the scale that's provided from the body of the air horn to the end of the float where shown. And to get that measurement, you come over here. It's a Ford 1978 250 engine, and it should be 25-30 seconds. I get this level and I measure like that, and you can see the float needs to be raised. It's down too low. So the way that you do that is you just take and give it a little tweak up like that, and now recheck it. As I recheck it, it still needs to go a little more. Checking it there, that's 25-30 seconds, and now you have to check the droop. Again, this is my float here. We're doing a float drop setting. Measure from the air horn to the float while it's free hanging. Get the float drop setting, it's 1.5 inches. So when I check the float drop setting, it's way past 1.5 inches. It's almost 2 inches. So I have to bend the tang on the back. That tang's right here, and I have to bend it towards the pin so it can't go back so far like that. To do that, I'm going to put a screwdriver right here. We'll hold the float and just give it a bend like that. So now we'll check that. Still too far. Now I went a little too far the other way. So that's easier. I just get behind the float tang in between the metal. Just give it a little bend there. So that's on the money there. 1 inch and 16-30 seconds, or 1.5 inches. Next thing I'm going to do is get the idle mixture screw back into the base. You can see I cleaned it real good also. Anytime you're putting anything like this in, you want to very lightly seat it. And that's seated right there, and it happens to be straight up and down. As a general rule of thumb, I take these 1.5 turns out, and then I'll adjust it once it's running. That's half, that's 1, and that's 1.5. I'll set this aside for now. And last is the main body. After this was done in the solvent tank, I made sure to clean all the ports and all the pieces. Really good with carb cleaner. So now I'll put this back together. So the main jet has 120 on it up here and 404 on it down here. And that goes right down into there. You see I got it down there. Now I'll just screw that in. I want to make sure that's relatively tight. You don't have to kill it, but it needs to be tight. Now I'm going to put the accelerator pump in, and this is the accelerator pump body. I see my accelerator pump has an extra hole here. There's no extra hole on the bottom or in there that it lines up with. So I assembled the full pump and in fact put the carb back together, and I forgot to put this washer on the accelerator pump. There it is on. Now I'm going to put it back together. You can see if you just put it in like this, it's way out here, so it doesn't really matter to the position so much. I'm going to drop it down in there, but before I do, go put the 4 screws in. So now you can see I got the 4 screws in. This piece here, this hose piece, sends fuel up and it goes right to here. It gets plugged into there. So I'm just going to drop this down with that kind of lined up. Now I'm going to turn the screws in a little at a time, take it down even. Now I'm going to torque it down a little bit tighter. Now that I pushed it and it's nice and free, I'm going to get this tube into that hole like that. And I'm just going to push it from the back side to get it in there. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of wiggling it side to side, and then I'm pushing it in with this finger here. Make sure it gets in all the way. Now you can see it's in further than it was originally. Alright, I believe it to be in there tight. Now you can kind of hear the air, and that'll eventually force gas out this tube here, and that's the accelerator pump. Next thing you want to do is you want to put this ball in the hole here. That's the check ball, so when you push gas out, it can't suck the gas back, so it always keeps it filled. The other thing they say you want to do to seat that ball against the seat is get a hammer, get a small punch, and just give it a little tap. And that relines that seat up with that ball. Want to make sure the ball comes out nice and easy. So I'm going to leave that out for now. That'll be the last thing I put in. First thing that goes on is this spring. After the spring goes on, it gets this horseshoe clip to hold it. So you have to compress the spring down, put it on, and the dimpled side goes down to kind of hold the spring. Now you have the spring in with the clip. Next thing you want to put on is you want to put this down through here, and that sticks out the bottom here. Looks kind of sloppy on there, but that's the way it came apart. Next thing you do is put this tang here with the 2 ears facing up. Then you put the main needle in. Now this main needle has to go down in that jet down in there. So I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to kind of slip it over like that. Then I'm just going to take a pair of needle nose and guide it in. It is spring loaded, but it goes right down in there, no problem. Next thing I'm going to do is put this spring goes on, and then there's another one of these clips, and again the dimple goes down to kind of hold the spring in place. This spring has a little more force to it. I got the spring down where I need it. Now I'm going to slip that clip in. There it is, the clip's in. So I just want to verify it gets big spring, clip, then that rod, then that piece there, that kind of alignment piece, and then it gets this clip that has the needle, and then it gets the upper spring and the upper spring keeper. So that's all done right. Next thing I want to do is put this jet in. The jet number is 3603, and just slips down in here, and then just tighten it up. Now I got the check ball. I'm going to drop it down in here, and then this check ball weight goes down on top of it. Or 29's the check ball, 28's called weight ball pump outlet. So it's the ball weight. At this point I want to put the top of the carb back on, but before I do that I have to put the gasket on. That gasket looks like this. And I'm going to bring the top of the carb down on it. Slip the float in first and then work it down on easily. It also goes in here. I want to make sure to get that in there. That's for the choke. Now I'm going to start the 7 screws. There's 3 long ones and they go here, right around the opening. You can see I clean these screws really good. They got lock washers already on them. And then the other 4 short ones go around the bowl. I'm going to start them with my small screwdriver. I like to get them all in and then snug them up before I tighten them. So I'm just going to go around and snug them all. Now I got the big screwdriver. I'm going to tighten them the rest of the way. Alright, now that's all tightened down. Come down here and put the base part of it on. Now you can see this gasket's made for multiple carburetors and kind of sticks out. I'm going to take a razor and cut the excess off of that. Now that I cut the excess off, it's a little more pleasing to the eye. Now I'm going to put the base on. This rod goes into this part here, so it has to go over this side like this. But first, it needs the gasket. There's the gasket. 2 came in this kit, but this is the right one. You can see the other one had a piece out here. Looked like both of them would work, but I'm going to go with this one. Before I put this on, I'm going to take this off over here. Got to loosen this Allen, slide it back. So when I put this on, I have to make sure I get this rod through that hole. I'm going to start this screw. Now I'll start a diagonal screw. Alright, another screw. And the last screw, get that one started. Before I tighten this down, make sure this bracket's in all the way. Then I want to tighten the Allen screw down. Now that the Allen screw is tightened down, I'm going to tighten these screws up on the base. Only find out that screw is stripped. Lovely. Alright, have to figure out where I'm going to go with that. Alright, I'm going to have to take the base back off and address that screw. So you saw where this screw wouldn't tighten up. I ended up pulling the whole carb back apart, and when I did, I put a helicoil in here. I ended up going with a number 6 metric so that I can put this bolt in here. This was the best fitting bolt, so that's why I ended up going with it. And I'll show you what that looks like when I get it all back together. So there's what that bolt looks like in there. It was tricky to get that helicoil in for that because it's a blind hole. I ended up drilling it out with a 1/4 inch drill bit, and that's what the kit called for. But since it was a blind hole and you didn't want to break into the fuel bowl, I drilled it as much as I could. Then I took another drill bit and grinded the tip off of the drill bit, the point, and that allowed me to go a little further into that hole. Now I don't have any of that on video. That allowed me to get the helicoil in, and everything's good with this. Last thing I need to do is put the electric choke back on. So the way this goes on is this tang here sticks out. This goes over this part like this because it moves like that. You can see this hole goes through here. That allows this to move back and forth. Then you put the gasket on. And then this metal plate, it does not move. This is the only part that moves. This part of the bimetallic spring goes over this, allowing it to move back and forth. And I think you just put it on like this. And you rotate it around and kind of grabs it there. Goes like that. And then you put the screws in. So there's the choke cover on for the electric choke and the carb all back together. Okay, now I'm going to get the carburetor on the truck. So I got the new electric choke, part number CV234. And there it is, all nice and new. Now I'm going to install it. First you put the plate on, then the gasket, then you put the hold down on there, and then the choke. So there it is, all installed. I put power to it and it opened the choke right up. It's still kind of warm. I didn't catch it on camera, unfortunately. But that's it for this video. I just got back from taking it for a ride and it's running excellent. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching.